Oh, so childish. I gotta stop that now, haven't I? Okay. Enlargification, please. Oh, there we go. Oh, that'll have to do. Completely unannounced, completely impromptu. Oh, that's nice, dear. Okay, so no one is online just yet. Maybe I should move this camera because it's a very, very wonky position. Look at me, for goodness. Why am I that way? This camera is so weird. Weird. I'm at that. The thing is, I get this every month and have done so for many years, but it doesn't make it any easier. The end of the month means the end of the money, the end of the energy, the end of feeling relaxed about, having bills and rent and food and stuff. The end of the Iceland shop in the fridge. And unfortunately, it starts all over again, way through every time. You can't guarantee you're going to, successfully beaten a very, very bad illness and saying, oh, that's it now, you're sorted, you've beaten it before, you can beat it again. It's like, not exactly. Poverty is an illness, and people could say to me, well, you can't be that broke. I'm literally on the breadline. Every single thing I do is scary, close to zero. I don't even have an overdraft, so I can't go under zero, but I can go to zero and broke. I don't have any overdraft or loans or anything like that. Bank won't give me them. I'm really annoyed at how I'm at the side of the screen, yet my camera seems to be looking directly at me. But if I move it directly in front of me... Ugh, come on, you stupid thing. Let's have a look at that. That is so weird. I've got to move the camera. I don't understand why this camera is actually looking at me, sort of on an angle. In order to get me centered, it's got to look... It's all going on now. Right. I see someone's watching. Hi, whoever's watching. I'm currently wrestling with the camera. That is so weird. Right. My camera is now on an angle, and the camera itself is slightly angled like that, and it's looking kind of away from me, like here. Yet I'm centered. I don't get it. Anyway, I was having a whinge about my financial status. I might do a video. See, I was about to say I might do a video on this, but that was old Terry's channel, where I would talk about my thoughts and feelings, and it's become apparent to me that if I want my channel to succeed, I can't do videos like that. I've got to stick to a certain subject, which is sci-fi and geekness. It's Bebe316. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for joining back in the good old days when I was talking about Firefly. Really nice to have you on board and to chat, etc. I've also approved you as an approved user, so when you comment on any of my videos, they instantly go into the comments underneath the video without me having to approve them. I do that for people who are come across as nice and decent. Obviously, I revoke it if people start getting argumentative and edgelordy, but I haven't had to revoke anyone's approved status just yet. What I was going to say is talking of edgelords, I put up a post this morning, in fact. Was it this morning or was it yesterday? I think it was today. Just saying that, I disagree. I'm all in favour of trans rights and treating trans people like human beings. And the fact that J.K. Rowling has spent the best part of a decade doing her very utmost to make trans people's lives a nightmare. It's nothing to do with her. In fact, trans people, were a big part of her audience, and she's just alienated them and done everything she can, including money, political lobbying, all sorts of stuff, just to try and add some pain and suffer a trans member of my family. So obviously I'm going to be against that kind of thing. And somebody I know, not a friend as such, a kind of an acquaintance for a good few years, who I have worked with, thought that was what I said was ridiculous. And I was like, dude, I gave you a chance. Just because, couldn't you just leave it at that, rather than trying to ridicule me for trying to be a decent human being? Anyway, that was this morning, and now they are no more on my Instagram. Not because I could get into a huge argument with them, but you can't change the minds of people who are that kind of. If they're going to put a laughing emoji on things like that, then you just go, I can't change your mind. One of my biggest bugbears is racism, and I know for a fact you can't change a racist's mind. I've done my best. All my life. I grew up in a very, very mixed race school in North London, and the same colour as you, who are your enemies. The only time I ever got into fights was with people who were white. What does that tell you? Anyway, moving along from things like that. There are two viewers which Bay 316, and I'm willing to bet. I don't know. I mean, I do have quite a lot of new subscribers, which is awesome, which is really, really good. It's gone up about 5 in the last couple of days, which I'm really excited about because, yes, here we go. It's crazy that this decency is the bare minimum amount to ask for today. Yeah, I mean, look, you may not relish the idea of someone assuming the gender identity of the opposite sex or whatever, but you don't have to date them, you don't have to sleep with them, you don't have to blooming tango with them. It's like, let them do what they want to do. All my life I've been walking around dressed like a teenager, t-shirt, jeans, and sometimes baseball cap and tracksuits and stuff, because I'm a b-boy. I don't want to walk into a pub and have everyone blooming go quiet and going, oh, he's one of those rap types. I mean, I do get it occasionally. I do have people thinking, especially among the smaller brained people, they go, oh, rap crap. It's like, oh, never thought of that. But, for empathy. So, that's that. What was I saying? It may well be at some point, hopefully with my slight, algorithm redirection thing, focusing on, more sci-fi, less personal. So I think the personal stuff I'll have to keep into these live streams. That way you get a different side of me, I suppose, rather than the presenter of geeky things. And it may well be that I'll get to 1,000 subscribers this year. That would be super exciting. I'm actually 500 watch hours away from the next tier of not chats and super somethings. I don't imagine anyone's going to send me $1, $2, $3 to ask a question in a live stream. That's I'm not John Campier, but I did come online just now with the intent of saying I have a very large cup of tea in a Winnie the Pooh mug. This had a big massive chocolate Easter egg in it, My housemate bought it for me, and I've had it for about 12 years now. Disney Store. No, I talk about. Oh goodness me, it's gone again. Well, one thing I will say, Doctor Who, 21 years ago today, the 2005 Russell T Davies era started 21 years ago today, and like I said on Facebook, I mean it's the 21 years ago. I think I better just find my my Facebook status because it's easier to reel that off. But essentially, good and bad memories today. 21 years ago, I rushed to my mother's OAP flat. OAP, if you're not in the UK, OAP is old age pensioner for old and may need help. So anyway, she gave me her key, saying, "I know Doctor Who starts on Saturday, and I know you'll want to watch Doctor Who Confidential, the behind the scenes documentary thing on BBC Three afterwards." So I run over and I watch it cross-legged. Now, how old am I now? 56, 46, 36. 35 years old, cross-legged, right up to the TV like that, watching it like I was again. And it was exciting and stuff, but here comes the downer. I was sitting wearing my mother's cardigan, woolen cardi, because she passed away 2 days before that. So watching this Doctor Who, thinking, I don't know if my mum would enjoy this. She never liked science fiction. But I did catch her watching Stargate one afternoon, and I went, "Oi, I thought you didn't like science fiction. I thought it was all far-fetched nonsense." She goes, this is quite good. But yeah, I put her cardigan on because I didn't put the heating on in her house. And the cardigan still smelled of her. One of those things. It was like she was there, actually. I was sitting in the dark with a cup of tea. Anyway, a question. What was your opinion of the most recent Doctor in general? To 10 rating. It would be like a 6. Either he was an 11 or he was a 0. I try to see the bad in anything good. What? I also try to see the good in anything bad. The charismatic actor who's very hard to dislike. He comes across as likable and charming and quite funny. But so does David Tennant. But David Tennant gets it. Matt's role. Obviously, he was championed by Russell T Davies, and apparently he came in, and did knock the audition out the park, etc. And I'm not even going to do what a lot of people say about Jodie Whittaker. Oh, the writing failed her. I mean, the writing could be awesome, but if you've got the wrong person cast, there's got to be better choices out there. And he did some very emotional acting, which wasn't terrible, but the fact that wasn't it like all except 2 stories he burst into tears. It's like, come on, the Doctor needs to be a bit stronger than that. I don't mind the Doctor being emotional, but let's have more joy than pain. Do you know what I mean? Matt Smith got very angry. Matt Smith got upset. Matt Smith was, occasionally completely nutty and bizarre and out of touch with human race, which is what the Doctor's supposed to be. David Tennant started off funny and got darker, much like Tom Baker did. Started off with so did Sylvester McCoy, didn't he? Started off, mercurial and happy and jolly and, quite eccentric, and then got darker and more serious as they came to the end of their tenure. And Ncuti was the same all the way through. Unfortunately, he wasn't given a favourite outfit. I don't mind Doctors changing their clothes a bit. I mean, David Tennant had the brown suit and the blue suit, didn't he? Along with a couple of little variations. But the Doctor needed a look, a stylized look. And when the first picture came out with sweater, that was a good look. And it was like, yeah, okay. When I saw him wearing that in the show, I'm like, that's the Doctor's uniform. But it didn't stay. I don't like the fact that Ncuti had a moustache. Apart from, John Hurt, we haven't really had a facial too young. But yeah, I just get the feeling that he was probably the wrong choice to play the Doctor, and it's nothing to do with his race or his sexuality and stuff. But what I will say, his voice was a turn off for a few people, and not turn off in in a childish sense, but more like it was a stumbling block. Ncuti has got an English accent for the most part. Uh, no, I will say a Scottish accent for the most part, but it's well spoken, so it's slightly, English, or what you call received pronunciation (RP). But it's in there, and a little bit of Scottish, so it's a blend of a number of things. And occasionally I had to. Hey, what? Oh, hello, Homer. Hey, homie. Best and worst older doctors, same best and worst newest doctors. Right. Best newest doctors, easy. David Tennant. I love Matt Smith to death, but David Tennant, his recent comeback as the 14th, is it, Doctor? Was okay, but it was such a weird one bringing him back a second time and calling him a different number. But David Tennant, in his original run, from season 2 onwards, he instantly went, here's Tom Baker for me. David Tennant went, whoop, boing, sometimes better. My favourite older Doctor, Tom Baker, obviously. Longest run, but also it was the era I grew up in. The first ever Doctor Who I saw was Jon Pertwee. Ironically, I was a young kid living in London, and I saw the what's the story? Jon Pertwee, The Green Death, which was set in Wales, and obviously my parents are Welsh, and we were living in London. I was born in London, and I think my dad let us watch it because it was interesting to see some actors with Welsh accents and set in Wales and mines, gold mines and stuff like that. So I grew up with the latter end of Jon Pertwee, and it was in colour. But Tom Baker was when I really got into it, So Tom Baker was the thing, and I really liked Peter Davison too. Then I got sort of into my late teens, and I started finding out other things in the world, like ladies and discos. Anyway, right. Best and worst. Oh, let's say worst. Of the new Doctors, I was never a big fan of Jodie and Ncuti. I don't know. It's a. If I had to put Jodie and Ncuti on a weighing scales of how good they were as a Doctor, maybe he had better scripts. Jodie's stories were consistently, in my humble opinion, not very good. And Ncuti impersonation of David Tennant, which is what I think Jodie was trying to do. At least Ncuti had his own kind of take on the Doctor, which again wasn't brilliant, but it really turned me off. Yeah, that whole new run of Russell T Davies, I kept constantly kept thinking. I rejoiced when I heard they were bringing Russell T Davies back. I was like, oh, brilliant! Now we're back to the quality stuff, and it just turned out to be, mate, what have you done with Russell T Davies? Who are you, and what have you done with him? Let's do a really meta episode where the Doctor goes to the BBC production office in Wales and accuses Russell T Davies of being not the real Russell T Davies, and he goes, ha ha ha, I'm an alien from the planet Zonk. I have eaten Russell T Davies and taken over his TV show, because all the fairy tale, highly musical themed stuff was just. It was too much of a departure. It was weird. We're going to eat babies, yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. And the bogeymen and all that. I was like, oh, goodness sake. My friend Lucas played the bogeyman and a number of different robots and monsters in Doctor Who. He is in my short film Mummified as a mummy. So you can watch that online as well. Yeah, do you know, I recently rewatched Matt Smith's first season from 2010. At the time, I was like, oh, I was just getting used to David Tennant, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about this new guy, which everyone gets at the start when they announce a new Doctor. It's Cardiff 1-1. Hello, Paul. How you doing? I just watched your very poignant video on Nicholas Brendan. So yeah, that was good and very well sort of researched and stated. But I was here. I'm here talking about the best and worst of Doctor Who. So strap in, mate. Um, yeah, no. So the when Matt Smith started, I was there and I saw the huge torrent of hatred towards him when they released a picture of him. Everyone who loved David Tennant was saying, "Oh, he's ugly. He's so ugly." They were calling him Elephant Man, big head, big chin, all this kind of stuff. Oh, I'm never watching Doctor Who again. And then as soon as he was coming to the end of his tenure, everyone was like, "Best Doctor ever." I really hate that about, especially Doctor Who, because it's a repetitive cycle of fall in love with the Doctor who's currently on telly, hate the new guy coming in, get to love him, and then hate the other new guy coming in, and it just goes on and on and on. But with Matt Smith at the time, I remember saying, "Ooh, they've changed too much too soon. They changed the exterior of the TARDIS, the interior of the TARDIS, the Doctor, the companion, the theme music." I was like, "Ooh!" At one point, they changed the Daleks, and look how that worked out. And I was like, "Oh, you're changing too much." But I look back now, and let's say I rewatched the 2010 Matt Smith's first season, and it's flipping great. Oh, they also changed the showrunner to Stephen Moffat, and everyone was on. And just like the Doctor, they loved him to begin with, and they hated him at the end. With the Doctor, it's the other way around, isn't it? They hate them at the beginning and love them at the end. Someone said to me, a friend actually said Star Trek, and I said it's the same as Doctor Who. I would go back to a truck on everything, but I would steer the whole look and feel of it. Next Generation, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine. To me, that is, Star Trek. Speaking of Moffat, he needs to come back. Yes, I agree. I think he's great. He gets Doctor Who. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people aren't fussed on him. Cardiff 1-1. I know you've got a few issues with the way Moffat handles Doctor Who, but not a hater, obviously. It's more of a kind of a alternate take on it. But I think compared to what we've had so far, especially Russell T Davies's quite dreadful second tenure, Moffat could do with another shot. He did write the Boom episode with Ncuti, which was very good. And when I saw someone else other than Russell T Davies writing, I was kind of looking forward. When I saw Stephen Moffat's name on it, I thought, at least we're in safe hands here. Let's see how Stephen Moffat handles. Then you can kind of forgive that if you're standing on a landmine. But yeah, he took the best bits of David Tennant and the best bits of Patrick Troughton, I think, and put them together. And he's not the biggest star in the world right now. But when I saw him in things, Matt Smith chewed up the scenery, and he had a tiny bit part in Terminator Genesis, which was a terrible film. I'm a bit hooed out. Understood monsters. I think you're right. There is. The problem with Doctor Who is completely unavoidable, and that is, like I was saying myself, the powers that be would say you can't go back to a tried and tested formula. You've got to keep pushing the envelope. You've got to have new ideas, to give something fresh and interesting. But when not just by Doctor Who, but by other sci-fi shows and movies and films, you have to regurgitate a lot of it. Unfortunately, I would go back to the formula where the TARDIS doesn't know where it's going. They land on a spaceship or a planet and the Doctor's like, "Oh, not that again." But it happens a lot in Doctor Who, or it did in the 80s and 70s. But I kind of like that. If I was a showrunner, I'd do at least one episode that was full of tropes, Doctor Who tropes and memes, not memes, tropes and cliches. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I came online 29 minutes ago, not a month, and I've been listing my worldly goods on eBay to make ends meet as usual. But one thing I wanted to speak to you, Paul, was obviously offline. I need to talk to you about the logistics and the mechanics of reaching monetization. I'm still a ways away. I'm still a bit of a way away. Moffat's last Christmas episode was really easily the worst. What was the Moffat's last Christmas episode? I can't remember what that one was. Was that the one where in Rory's house and she's like, water pistol, and goes, "We've set you a place." He goes, "But you didn't know I was coming." She goes, "We always set you a place, you moron." I quite like that. Yeah, one thing I certainly don't like about Stephen Moffat's tenure is his overuse and the constant milking of River Song. Joy to the World. Ah, he wrote that, did he? Goodness me. Yeah, I mean, I've stayed at that hotel, and you probably have as well, Paul. Ban, and the whole hotel reeked of nicotine. It was not great, but I did go back since, and it was all right. But yeah, it hasn't changed. I'm surprised. I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Whovians actually stay at that hotel now, on St Mary's. Yeah, I know. That was not great. I'd forgotten that Moffat wrote it, and I'm quite saddened by that. Oh goodness me, it's gone. It's completely gone. A question here. Do you think Billy Piper will be the next Doctor, or was that kind of weird thing we will understand later? The latter. Can't make a last minute, for the last second of a season that may not be coming back. You can't just make a decision on who the next Doctor's going to be, so you throw a placeholder in. So she was basically a last minute placeholder, and Paul, Cardiff 1-1, has a good, regardless of who's making it and what the budget's like, just start in the middle with an actor playing the Doctor. Doesn't matter who the actor is, obviously. Well, it does, but you know what I mean. But don't follow from that very second onwards. You've got plenty of time to revamp and reach. I mean, because when Christopher Eccleston turned up, people were like, "Oh, where'd he come from? How long's he been the Doctor?" and all this kind of stuff. And we find out more about him, and that's exactly the way to do it, I think, as Cardiff 1-1 says. By the way, Paul, I went down to Yanto's Shrine on last weekend, and it's still there. And you're right, it's in a very sorry state. But I did go over to see my friend Ben with Daffodil, the little boat, which appeared in the Shooty story, the one with the bubble, dot and bubble. Right at the very end, there was a little boat. That was my friend Ben's boat. And he's giving free rides on Sunday, all day, because he's sold the business to a different person. He's keeping his boat master's license, so he can come back occasionally and do a little, keep his hand in, do a few trips. But going back to Billy Piper, yes, most people have said what they could probably... I know some people do want Billy Piper to be the Doctor. I think that would be just too... I don't know. I think it should be, because they've used her likeness, it would be nice for the Bad Wolf thing to come through time and say, I'm in here for a bit. And you could still get a full episode of Billy Piper playing a Doctor-like character, and yes, you say here they probably didn't even know what they would do with Billy Piper when they asked her to do that. It's one of those we'll figure it out later things. Yeah, exactly. Because casting the new actor to play the Doctor is a huge undertaking, and if you aren't sure if you're going ahead with the next season or with Disney or even with Russell on board, there's very little sense in saying, let's cast an actor and let them hang around for the next couple of years. I don't know when Doctor Who is coming back. We've got the Christmas special, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, it is a perfect opportunity to cast a brand new Doctor. What if you start off the episode? I'm just. Where kid looks out the window, hears the TARDIS, and goes, "What's that?" It sounds like a sounds like a siren. Kid runs out, sees a TARDIS. Door opens, and the Doctor steps out, and it's a completely new actor going, "Hello, I've, all this kind of stuff. I'm a bit discombobulated," and they actually go with the Doctor to shoot his TARDIS in some weird, dimensional thing, and help Billy Piper's character out, and in the end they have to sort of some sort of split universe Doctor thing, just bringing them back together, like the opposite of the bi-generation thing. Cardiff11 says Moffat is 64, RTD is 62. They're too old now to give Doctor Who the energy and new ideas it desperately needs at this point. The showrunner needs to be much younger, and preferably what? Careful, don't get contentious. Yeah, 60 is it? I don't think my ideas. And I'm not a practiced, seasoned writer of old for the job, but I can understand how someone who's super driven and super educated, and like you say in your follow-up comment, not an Uber fan, but did in 60 years of backstory. Yeah, I mean, this is the poison chalice, isn't it? It's a great opportunity, and if I could pick anyone in the world to write for Doctor Who, I'd pick Chris Lynch, my mate from Cardiff. He's still ridiculously inventive, and he can put a spin on stuff that's even, even stuff that's been done before. He can put such an interesting, quirky new spin on stuff that he is just my favourite writer. He's just great. And I think Chris isn't the uber fan of Doctor Who that that some of these people are. He cut his teeth in graphic novels and superheroes and horror. I did do a video actually a couple of months ago about how I would like Mark Gatiss, Reece Shearsmith, and possibly Steve Pemberton, the League of Gentlemen guys, to take over as showrunners. I think that although Mark Gatiss is no stranger to Doctor Who and an uber fan, he I think he I'll answer your question in a second, baby. That's a good one. I think the League of Gentlemen guys would take it in a more gothic horror kind of Philip Hinchcliffe-esque kind of way, which I'd quite like to see. It's definitely got to be scary again. There seems to be this modern thing of like, oh, don't give the kids nightmares. Yes, give the kids nightmares. I want kids to be as terrified of Doctor Who as I was when I saw the Green Death and the Seeds of Doom and Seeds of Death and the Ark in Space, stuff like that. Brain of Morbius frightened the life out of me. Okay, so the question from Bebe says, going with the idea for a brand new showrunner, what do you think about someone that's not British to run the show, presuming they're very talented and a good fit for the show? Well, I've spoken about this a few times, about J. Michael Straczynski, who is the creator of Babylon 5, and he is a massive Doctor Who fan, and he's American, and he apparently has moved to the UK with the sole intention of being on hand if they want him. He has said publicly many times, I really want to run Doctor Who. Give him a go. I think he's got a good, good CV for it. There are probably lots of other non-British people. Someone said to me before I didn't like the Paul McGann thing. It was very Americanized. And I'm like, it's not that Americanized when you think about it. The two biggest criticisms of Paul McGann's TV movie in '96 was the fact that he'd chase with a Doctor Who doesn't do that. I was like, yeah, but do something different. It doesn't make it Americanized. Yes, it was set in the States, but that's not a piece of passion. So I didn't mind that. But when you compare the '96 McGann movie to Russell T Davies's first thing. That's very similar in tone and pacing and everything else. And also, I'm going to be meeting Paul McGann this May, and Peter Davison, and Colin Baker. And I may even dress up as the Master to interrogate them on stage. It'll be... If he hadn't have been turned out to be problematic, Joss Whedon could have done a Doctor who had come around at the right time. I would say after Avengers and before Age of Ultron, when he really felt down and exhausted and knackered and had enough of the whole Hollywood machine. The Buffy treatment to Doctor Who in the UK, I think that would have worked, because Joss Whedon and here we go. Paradise is one of the best new shows on TV, currently in its second season. I don't know Dan Fogelman, and I don't know Paradise. I may have to watch an episode or two just to see what you're talking about, but I trust your judgment, certainly. There was Tubert Giles after moving back to the UK, because Anthony Stewart Head did move back to the UK, to Bath, which is not far from Bristol, and they were going to do a show about Ripper. I don't know whether it would be told in flashback or a continuation from Buffy onwards, but that never came to fruition. I would like to have seen that. That would have been basically a cross between, I don't know, the X-Files and something like Hammer horror films. Happen, unfortunately. I'll look into Paradise, and obviously we were talking about Nicholas Brendon, and he had a lot of demons, with substance stuff, and I'm not condoning that. All of his cast members from Buffy came out and said he was I did have somebody kind of say to me, "I'm sorry, but I'm not celebrating someone who abuses women," which is, fair enough. And I'm certainly, like I said in my videos before, I'm not going to condone Joss Whedon's bullying behaviour on set, which is not acceptable from any director, and there are many other directors who have done it and are still working and quite liked today. But Joss Joss went through it at the time when people demanded heads on sticks and cancellation became a thing, so he's been cancelled. And someone said to me, I got into not be remunerated a little bit, because without him there would be no Firefly. You can't just take his property off him and say, you've been a bad boy, therefore you never get paid for something you created. And they were like, oh. They basically tried to accuse me of condoning what he did, and it's like, no, that's not what I'm getting at. I think, we all saw it, and a lot of people said they saw it in person at the premiere of Age of Ultron, and Joss looked like death warmed up. He said, I'm exhausted, I'm broken, I've had enough of the studio system, I was messed about with, in terms of, higher-ups and suits making changes and dictating to him. And you don't hire someone like that and then put shackles on them, And again, he did some shitty stuff, and I'm fairly sure all of us have done things that we're not proud of, to a certain extent, but these things are still not illegal. If he'd have, been caught people trafficking and substance smuggling and, heaven forbid, Epstein stuff, then I would not be looking at him fondly, but none of that has happened. He was never violent with anyone on set. James Masters said he did grab him and say, "You are dead, I've had enough of your character," in a matter of stress. Mean bosses have been around for a long time, it's just that he's famous. I've had horrible bosses. Nothing happened to them. And there are so many stories of someone like James Cameron, being horrible on this on Titanic and Abyss and other films, and he's even said it himself. I got the masterclass from James Cameron, and he said I was an absolute tyrant in the past, and I've since realised you get more out of people if you're nice to them. Stanley, but you know, when you people talk about Stanley Kubrick and Ridley Scott being tough and hard, and James Cameron being a bit of a bully, people still talk about them in you know, tones of mass respect. Oh, they are legends, though. It's like, well, you know, unfortunately, in the era of cancellation, if you do something wrong, no one's allowed to have any flaws. You've got to be 100% squeaky clean angel, no pun intended. And Joss Whedon wasn't at the time. You know, there are very many people who've never had a problem with Joss Whedon. You could argue that he had problem with women, which is a shame because he also painted himself and was for many years he's the poster boy for feminism. But he certainly, you know, hit a very bad patch. Much like Ezra Miller. I know Ezra Miller, I mean, they're not my favourite actor, and they've done a lot of questionable stuff. There is talent there. I'm not a big lover of Ezra Miller, but you know what I mean. As my mama always used to say, you get more with honey than you do vinegar. Yeah, I think the phrase I heard was you catch more flies with sugar than you do with salt. Same thing, isn't it? You'll probably get along. I think my problem is I'm a bit of a people pleaser, and in terms of personal relationships and stuff, I'm not very assertive anymore, and I'm too nice, and I get walked over quite a bit, and I get dumped and ghosted, sadly. Something I've been something I would okay. So where were we? Goodness me. I mean, there's three viewers, so I'm assuming it's Cardiff 1-1 Bay Bay. I'm from the southern US. It's, I guess, a little different here, I guess. Yeah. I forget where you said you were from. But yeah, I mean, all right. Let's flip this. As someone from the southern of the US, you have my deepest sympathies. I don't know you and yours are safe in Arkansas. I remember, yeah. I know well enough to not say Arkansas, unless you do say it. I don't know. I don't think so. But you know, Doctor Who is a very British thing, which has always had problems trying to break, you know, get popular in the States because it's so British and unique and weird, and because Tom Baker was, you know, the longest serving Doctor at 7 years, a lot of some of the episodes went over, and there was that famous Max Headroom incident, which took place during an episode of, I'm gonna say, the one with the rat, the Philip Hinchcliffe episode. Oh, what was it? Paul, if you're still watching, what was the Doctor Who episode with the Talons of Weng-Chiang? That one. There was that, and then Stephen Moffat really took the Doctor Who to the States with Matt Smith. So that's probably where you have gotten to see a lot of him. They did a lot of touring in the States. So they did an episode, the Western episode, I can't remember the name of. Was it... wasn't Robot on the Orient Express. That was Mummy on the Orient Express. Not Robot of Sherwood, that was the other thing. Oh, it was like Robot in the Wild West type thing. Robot Gunslinger, that kind of thing. I think that was actually shot in... But, you know, how have you latched on to Doctor Who in such a way? Where's it come from? And, you know, what are your thoughts on Doctor Who? And what makes Doctor Who appealing to an American? Because, you know, there are American shows that have done well. Jack, all the cop shows, you know, Cagney and Lacey, that kind of thing. and comedies like Morgan. But there are certain shows that they do the sort of British reinvention of them, and they also try America. Three's Company, or had Three's Company, and in the UK it was called Man About the House. I can't remember. I think Man About the House might have been the originator, and Three's Company was a take on that. You had friends, Paul. I will see you soon. We have to get a cup of coffee. Grab the load. Red and oh yes, in the States you had Friends, and we had a Stephen Moffat show called Coupling, which was kind of Friends. It was three couples of people, and it was everyone called it the British Friends. It wasn't supposed to be a sort of retelling of Friends or guys, three girls. A lot of the actors and actresses you'll recall who have been in Doctor Who. And let me just check my connection. Actually, that's probably right. My thing did say reconnecting, so I've moved to a slightly better connection. So I hope you haven't missed too much. The first time on Sci-Fi Channel, my first adopted was Silence in the Library. I'll never forget it. Well, weirdly enough, I was just sent a load of Doctor Who DVDs. As you might know, I work for my friend Sean, who runs Candy Jar Books, which does a lot of Doctor Who and Lethbridge Stewart, Doctor Who type stuff and spin-off stuff. And he sent me some of the load of DVDs that he doesn't need anymore. So I've got the complete specials on standard DVD, but there's a number of discs in there, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, I've seen all these, but nice to actually own them. A Blu-ray set of the fourth series with Catherine Tate. The third series, this is still Russell T Davies with Freema, complete third. The complete second series. Now, look at the difference between Blu-ray, which is like a 4-discer, and a DVD set, which is, I don't know how many discs this has got in here. I haven't even looked. With 6 discs in here, but it's massive. That's the second series. Ooh, look at that. So that should be good. I think I've still got the third. I might have the third season in a box like this somewhere. And also, quite fittingly for today. Oh, you've seen Coupling. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I've been forcing people to watch Firefly recently. So quite fittingly, 21 years ago, this started. And I got problems with the design of that TARDIS. And I did say it to the guy who designed it. I had an interview at Doctor Who Studios back in 2006. And I said, who designed that TARDIS? And he said, I did. I was like, I have problems. He said, I know. He said, it's not been uncommented on. They made a comment on it as well. They talked about the police box, and somebody said that, I think the doctor said, yeah, I know the windows are a bit big, that kind of thing. So, I really would like to sit down and watch the first episode, Rose, but it's just gone, 25 minutes past 12 here, midnight, so maybe I should get some sleep. But I've been chatting for like an hour. It's good. It's good to know that British stuff does occasionally travel, and get accepted in the States. You probably heard of Life on Mars, which was the John Sim who played the Master in Doctor Who. It was his sort of 70s retro, is it time travel, is he in a coma, is it all a dream, cop show, and they did an American version of it. I think they did Sherlock as well, didn't they? Was that the Johnny Lee Miller and Lucy Liu? I'm not sure if that was a complete Americanized sort of take on the Stephen Moffat Sherlock. But I think Johnny Lee Miller, who is British, was playing it as an American. BBC America back in the day. Yeah, that's right. BBC America. I forget that they've got this. I'm going to quickly look. When did BBC America come into being? When did BBC America start? 1998, so it was a lot earlier than I thought. Um, does it still exist? Yes, it's owned by AMC Networks. The channel primarily airs sci-fi and action series and films, as well as programs and documentaries. Okay, I thought BBC America was sort of more around 2010. 2000. Oh, it's just 12 years before Matt Smith's era, so interesting, yeah. I mean, it's good that, at least you've got, a nice, a one-stop shop for anything quirky and British that you want to see, so that's quite good. Um, there is no sort of definitive channel, but I think in the UK, we've if you don't count the cable channels and satellite and that kind of thing, we had 4 main channels, and 2 of those were BBC channels. So look, the programming I've seen for today's BBC America doesn't really line up with the old BBC America. Yeah, I can imagine. But growing up, I, as a kid, I think the fact that I like doing voiceovers. I do voice work and stuff. I'm not too bad at doing American accents because, as a kid, you grow up with seeing so much American stuff. Like I say, comedy shows, action shows. Then with the advent of video, VHS, back in the mid '80s, it was all blockbusters, action movies, horror films, and American stuff is ubiquitous. It's all over the place, and it's again. I think you've seen this yourself. I mean, there's probably out in the States. There's good and bad British stuff. There's stuff you just can't be bothered to watch, and there's stuff that is actually decent. I do wish that Doctor Who would have been a bit more sort of adopted by the States, but I think there's a big enough niche crowd of sci-fi and geek fans out there. Obviously, when you think of sci-fi fans in the States, the first thing you think of is Star Trek fans. But that's one of the big ones, isn't it? Do I mind speaking on my opinion on Starfleet Academy? I have not seen it. I've only seen the trailers, and Sean at Candy Jar has been watching it, and he says he really enjoys it. And there's a second season on the way, even though it's been announced to have been sort of cancelled. I haven't stayed away from it because I've heard things like there's a gay Klingon and there's a female Jem'Hadar and all these kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm sure you can find ways of making these sort of deviations from the original sort of idea work, but I've not been. I'm thinking is I'm an artist, right? I've got this problem where if I don't like the visuals about something, that goes a long way into turning me off something. So when Discovery came on, I thought, this is a bit wildly different. All the spaceship interiors have all gone a bit sort of like walking into a dark discotheque. There's all like shiny things and almost J.J. Abrams kind of lots of bits of glass and gold and stuff, but the place is so dark in there. You'll be walking around with a flashlight going, it's like my house at the moment. It's like, what the heck is that? What the point? What's that little flashing light thing there? I know what it is. That's actually a little statue of Isis, but it's reflecting on something. Well, I don't know why it's flickering. Shouldn't be. But no, I haven't seen Starfleet Academy, and now I know it's been cancelled. I'm probably not going to get around to watching it. I was saying that to someone today that I was saying to my friend in Utah that if I could, I would go back to this tried and tested formula, because Star Trek for me would be comfort food, and I'd be most comfortable seeing it in the Rick Berman era of Next Generation, Voyager and Deep Space Nine. That to me is the warm and fuzzy Star Trek that I could live with, rightly or wrongly. And I'm also a big fan of Star Trek the motion picture, which a lot of people call Star Trek the slow motion picture, or Star Trek the motionless picture. But I just like Shatner, you know. Just turned 95, didn't he? He has lost a lot of weight though. He's not in Tom Baker territory. Excuse me. He's not in Tom Baker territory yet, as in worryingly thin. But I've noticed he's thinning out now, which looks good on him, to be honest, because William Shatner was very round and very red, like a balloon that's being inflated. And I'm glad he's dropped a bit of weight. He's less red in the face now, which I think is a good thing. Unfortunately, the great Tom Baker, he looks so frail. He's so frail that I dare say we may not have him with us this year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he lives forever, but you know, these things really happened. Okay, I know most people focus on the woke stuff, but the writers have a real problem with sticking to details and the canon of the franchise. In a nutshell, it doesn't seem to respect the history. Good point. This, with a long-running sci-fi franchise, or any franchise really, there are certain things that are set in place. I mean, sometimes you've got to respect the things that have been established and try not to change them. Just don't deviate too much from them. Let's look at Spider-Man. James Cameron invented organic web shooters for Peter Parker while he was still going to make the film. And everyone went crazy. No, Peter Parker shouldn't have organic web shooters. But those went forward into the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire film. And people kind of went, okay. But, you know, by the time Andrew Garfield came around, he had mechanical web shooters again. Yeah, I think certain things gotta, you know, the Jem'Hadar and the Klingons are quite strongly defined, you know. I don't know if you've seen the Orville. The Orville is Seth MacFarlane's take on Star Trek, really, and it's really good. You know, it does have jokes in it, as it was pitched as a comedy sci-fi series, but when it does sci-fi really well. And he does things like, you know, I mean, to take the gay Klingon thing, in the Orville they've got Bortus, and his race are called the Moclans, and they're supposed to be an all-male race, which means they have male partners, and they lay eggs to have kids. But, you know, although it's a comedy show, it doesn't ridicule them for being quote-unquote gay. It just says that's how they are, like it or lump it, you know. And we're old enough and, you know, mature enough to accept it. What do you think of the Orville? I mean, the first season is laugh a minute. You know, there's some practical joke stuff in there, like the Mr. Potato Head stuff on Isaac, you know. But the second season drops some of the humour, and it's a lot lighter. It's just quips and stuff. And the third season, when it came back on Hulu, was even more solid sci-fi and, you know, little bits of humour. But I liked it so much that it made me think, why wasn't there more occasional quips in the Next Generation? Because it in comparison, it makes the next generation seem really really like humorless, and let's all play this dead straight, you know, and think, does no one ever laugh? And yes, there are moments when people smile at each other and say the odd thing, and Data, you know, you don't get it, you know. But yeah, a lot of people have said the Orville is definitely more Star Trek than we've had in a while, minus the comedy. Yeah, and the good thing, it's like Firefly. You fall in love with the characters, don't you? You start, you know, a good show. I'm not sure how I do it. I'm not an expert, but I've got lots of ideas for shows and cartoons and whatever, movies or whatever, and I'd like to know a good way, or the tricks that they use to get a character firmly defined in the audience's head straight away, so that the audience goes, I like that character. It doesn't even mean they have to be a nice character, like Jane in Firefly is not a very nice guy, but you instantly work out who they are, what they're like, and you kind of like them because of it, like an anti-hero, you know? Oh, dear. Well, my coffee's gone cold. That's what you get when you buy when you have almost like a full pint coffee mug. But like my dear departed mother, used to make me a cup of coffee or a cup of tea in the morning and shout up the stairs for me to get out of bed. And then I'd get out of bed an hour later, and then she'd say, "Your tea's there, but it's gone cold, and I'm not making you another one." I'm like, no, it's fine, and I drink it cold, just not to upset her. So that's why I don't have a problem with cold tea or coffee. I'm strange like that. Yummy. So, goodness me, Saturday. I normally do a video for Saturday, and I haven't got anything really planned. I did just buy a backdrop. Before I go, let me show you the backdrop I bought for my videos. So instead of me sitting on the floor by my window to get the light, I may be moving upstairs to do my videos. Ooh. Hang on, I'm back. Why is that not... Did I press the wrong button? Oh, there we go. Let's do that. Let's see if I can find this this backdrop. Talk amongst yourselves. Where is this image? I bet I've moved it. I shouldn't have moved it. So I bought this backdrop, and I've had it printed onto a very big 2 meter by 1.5 meter. Ooh, hang on. Oh, bang. Oh, okay. So if I can just... There we go. Why is that not centered? It's not very centered. Maybe I've stretched it or something. But basically you can see the actress that plays the captain's ex-wife. I saw an interview. Yes, Adrienne Palicki. Yes, I heard about that they were like, it's taking so long to make, and we're a bit annoyed because, we can't take other jobs, yet you want us to hang around until Seth does this, gets the show made. And I totally understand that. And she was like, it probably isn't going to happen. She may come back if they can sort that out. This is still a weird shape. This window should actually be dead center, but I don't know why I've managed to stretch it in a weird way. Maybe I can... Oh, it goes up to there. Okay, we're getting there. Now a little bit more at the top. Hey, there we go. So this is going to be my backdrop. I've had it printed on a 1 meter by 1.5 meter piece of satin or nylon, or whatever you want to call it, like a flag. And I spend today running the steam iron on it to flatten all the folds, and it's currently hanging upstairs, so hopefully it'll be a bit flatter. So I'll probably film something in time for Saturday to have that. I wanted something generically sci-fi. I could have had I did fancy the idea of a nice big Serenity symbol, but that might give people the wrong idea that I'm all about, my channel's all about Serenity when it isn't. But it's the Earth, I quite like a generic sci-fi corridor type thing. I did a surprising amount of work of Photoshop on that. I dropped the window in. Yes, I saw the interview with Seth where he said the next season has been written, and so it does sound like he's still he still wants to do it. I wish he'd stop focusing on Ted. I think the whole talking teddy bear who's quite rude, the vulgar teddy bear thing is kind of... they've done enough with it. Do you know what I mean? 3 seasons of The Orville is certainly not enough. But they say it's a complicated and expensive show to make. But it's very, very good for what it is. I think it's more bang for its buck. It's more thought-provoking. And even in terms of just making you smile or occasionally giggle, it's good. Ted is going animated now. Oh wow. I wonder how that's gonna, So how do they? It'd be like South Park, Family Guy kind of style. I guess that would probably be it. So it can be, slightly adult, like American Dad, perhaps. Um, yeah, who knows? So, okay. Well, that may be like Family Guy, where Seth can just hand it over to the animation company and then just pop in occasionally to do Ted's voice, and that's all he needs. He lets everyone else write it. I mean, that's a formula he's found on Family Guy and American Dad, and it makes sense because, I mean, it's working for him because he can get his other projects up and running, and then get people he trusts to run those while he still takes a wage from it by playing an important part, such as Ted, or the voice of Peter and Brian, and giggity giggity, giggity giggity, that kind of thing. So yeah, interesting stuff, and I really hope it gives results in more Orville for us all, because you know, gotta love Isaac. As again, he's what's we got here? According to Seth, it sounds like he wanted to continue Ted in live action, but Universal thought it was too expensive, so they offered an animated version. Okay. Yeah, I mean, all right. We've had movies. I think we've had two movies. We've had the second. Are we on the second season of the live action, which I've never really watched, but I've heard is good. And now animated. Fine, that's all right. But let's get back to Orville, please, Seth. And I'm sure a lot of people on his Instagram are constantly saying, Orville season 4, please, get on with it. That would be good. Anyway, it may just be you and me, or you, me, and a lurker, because I can see an extra viewer watching, whoever that is. Ah, good. Glad you enjoy Ted. He's certainly charming, but I think there's lots that has been done with that premise, and something like the Orville is like Star Trek and Doctor Who. It's like a template for endless possibilities, isn't it? With Ted, it's like there are possibilities, but it still boils down to a talking teddy bear who says things that teddy bears shouldn't say. So that's the thing. Apparently, the word teddy bear comes from Theodore Roosevelt, doesn't it? Teddy Roosevelt. So I'm told. Never knew that as a kid, but did he have a teddy bear, Roosevelt? I don't know. Roosevelt. Anyway, lovely chat to you tonight. Thanks for stopping by, because I didn't think anyone would. Rich, Dr. David Hugo. Hello. Just stopping to say hi. Rich, I've been talking for an hour and 16 minutes, and now you pop in the second I said, right, I'm off to bed. But yeah, I hope you've had a good time, Rich. I'll leave this video up for a couple of days. It does start off quite depressed and me whinging about how little money I've got. But the bottom line is it's the end of the month, and I feel like this at the end of every month. There's no money, there's no food. There's always lots of work to do, but there's not enough money, not enough food, not enough bills being paid. But, Anyway, I'm a bit tired. I don't know if I'm going to go to bed immediately, but I've got to be a bit quieter, because literally right in front of my face is a wall, and behind that wall is my landlord and landlady, because they live in the house next door. So I don't want to be up yapping too late. But anyway, thanks for joining, and like I said, I'll leave this video up for a couple of days, but I'll probably drop it down, because nobody watches videos that are over an hour long and it's just me talking. But I will be putting up something for Saturday. If it's not Babylon 5 next review, it will be maybe something to do with Doctor Who, as we're 21 years into the new Who run. Alrighty? So anyway, that's it from me, and I will see you very soon.